One Brahma Purana Preliminaries. There was a forest known as Namishranya. The sages, Maharshis, arranged for a sacrifice, yajna, in this forest, and the ceremony went on for 12 years. Namishranya forest was a wonderful place to arrange sacrifices in. The climate was pleasant. There were trees full of climate was pleasant. There were trees full of flowers and fruit. There was no shortage of food in the forest, and animals, birds and sages lived there happily. Many sages came to attend the sacrifice that had been arranged in Namishranya. With them was Maharshana, alternatively Maharshana, Vyasa's disciple. Vyasa had instructed this disciple of his in the knowledge of the Puranas. The assembled sages worshipped the learned Maharshana and said, "Please tell us the stories of the Puranas. Who created the universe, who is its preserver, and who will destroy it? Please instruct us in all these mysteries." Maharshana replied, "Many years ago, Daksha and the other sages had asked Brahma these very questions. I have learned about Brahma's replies from my guru, teacher, Vyasa. I will relate to you what I know. In the beginning, there was water everywhere, and the Brahman slept on this water in the form of Vishnu. Since water is called Nara and since Ayana means a bed, Vishnu is known as Narayana. In the water there emerged a golden egg. Brahma was born inside this egg. Since he created himself, he is called Swayambhu, born, by himself, Swayam. For 1 whole year, Brahma lived inside the egg. He then split the egg into 2 and created heaven and the earth from the 2 parts of the egg. Skies, directions, time, language and senses were created in both heaven and earth. From the powers of his mind, Brahma gave birth to 7 great sages. Their names were Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Krathu and Vashishta. Brahma also created the god Rudra and the sage Sanat Kumara. More creation. To continue with the process of creation, Brahma gave birth to a man and a woman from his own body. The man was named Swayambhuva Manu and the woman was named Shatrupa. Humans are descended from Manu. That is the reason they are known as Manva. Manu and Shatrupa had 3 sons named Veera, Priyavrata and Uktanpada. Uktanpada's son was the great Dhruva. Dhruva performed very difficult meditation, tapasya, for 3000 divine years. Brahma was so pleased at this that he granted Dhruva an eternal place in the sky, near the constellation that is known as Saptarshi or the 7 sages. This is the constellation Ursa Majoris and Dhruva is the pole star. In Dhruva's line there was a king named Prachinavi. Prachinavi had 10 sons, known as the Prachetas. These Prachetas were supposed to look after the world and rule over it, but they were not interested in such mundane matters. They went off instead to perform tapasya under the ocean. The tapasya went on for 10,000 years. The upshot was that the earth had no ruler and began to suffer. People started to die and thick forests sprouted everywhere. So thick were the forests that even the winds could not blow. News of this catastrophe reached the Prachetas. They were furious with the trees and created wind, Vayu, and fire, Agni, from their mouths. The wind dried up the trees and the fire burned them, so that, very soon, there were very few trees left on earth. Everyone was alarmed at the effects of the Prachetas' anger. The moon god Soma, or Chandra, came to the Prachetas with a beautiful woman and said, "Prachetas, please control your anger. You need someone to rule over the world so that you can concentrate on your tapasya. This woman is named Marisha. Her son will rule over the world. The Prachetas agreed to this proposal and Daksha was born. The word Praja means subject and the word Pati means master. Since Daksha ruled over the world and its subjects, Daksha came to be known as Prajapati. The sages interrupted Romaharshana. They said, "Sage, we are completely confused. We have heard that Daksha was born from Brahma's toe. And yet you have told us that Daksha was the son of the Prachetas. How is this possible?" Romaharshana replied, "There is no reason for bewilderment. Many Dakshas have been born to rule over the world. One was born from Brahma's toe, yet another was the son of the Prachetas." Daksha's offspring. Daksha's wife was named Asikli and Asikli gave birth to 5,000 sons. They were known as the Haryashvas. The Haryashvas were destined to rule over the world. But the sage Narada went to the Haryashvas and said, "How can you rule over the world if you don't even know what the world looks like? Are you familiar with its geography and its limits? First find out about these things, before you contemplate ruling over the world." The Haryashvas went off to explore the world and never returned. Daksha and Asikli then had another 1,000 sons who were named the Shavalashvas. Narada told them what he had told the Haryashvas, and the Shavalashvas also went off to explore the world and never returned. Daksha and Asikli were distressed that their children should disappear in this manner. Daksha blamed Narada for the instigation and proposed to kill him. But Brahma intervened and persuaded Daksha to control his anger. This Daksha agreed to do, provided that his conditions were met. "Brahma must marry my daughter Priya," he said. "And Narada must be born as Priya's son." These conditions were accepted. In fact, Daksha and Asikli had 60 daughters. Elsewhere, the Brahma Purana mentions 50 daughters. 10 of these daughters were married to the god Dharma and 13 to the sage Kashyapa. 27 daughters were married to Soma or Chandra. The remaining daughters were married to the sages Arishtanemi, Vahuputra, Angiras and Krishashva. The 10 daughters who were married to the god Dharma were named Arundhati, Vasu, Yami, Lamba, Bhanu, Marutwati, Sankalpa, Muhurta, Sadhya and Vishwa. Arundhati's children were the objects, Vishaya, of the world. Vasu's children were the 8 gods known as the Vasis. Their names were Apa, Dhruva, Soma, Dhara, Salila, Anila, Pratyusha and Prabhasa. Anila's son was Kumara. Because Kumara was brought up by goddesses known as the Kritikas, he came to be called Kartikeya. Prabhasa's son was Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma was skilled in architecture and the making of jewelry. He became the architect of the gods. Sadhya's children were the gods known as Sadhyadevas and Vishwa's children were the gods known as Vishwadevas. The 27 daughters of Daksha who were married to Soma are known as the Nakshatras, stars. As you have already been told, Kashyapa married 13 of Daksha's daughters. Their names were Aditi, Diti, Danu, Arishta, Sursa, Kasa, Surbhi, Vinta, Tamara, Krodvasha, Ila, Kadru and Muni. Aditi's sons were the 12 gods known as the Adityas. Their names were Vishnu, Shakra, Ayama, Datta, Vidata, Twashta, Pusha, Vivaswan, Savita, Mitravaruna, Amsha and Bhaga. Diti's sons were the Daityas, demons. They were named Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and amongst their descendants were several other powerful Daityas like Bali and Banasura. Diti also had a daughter named Singhika who was married to a Danva, demon, named Viprachati. Their offsprings were terrible demons like Vatapi, Namuchi, Ilvala, Maricha and the Nivatkavachas. The 100 sons of Danu came to be known as Danvas. The Danvas were thus cousins to the Daityas and also to the Adityas. In the Danva line were born demons like the Poilmas and Kalakeyas. Arishta's sons were the Gandharvas, singers of heaven. Sursa gave birth to the snakes, Serpa. Kasa's children were the Yakshas, demigods who were the companions of Kuber, the god of wealth, and the Rakshasas, demons. Surbhi's descendants were cows and buffaloes. Vinta had two sons named Aruna and Garuda. Garuda became the king of the birds. Tamra has 6 daughters. From these daughters were born owls, eagles, vultures, crows, waterfowl, horses, camels and donkeys. Krudvasha had 14,000 children known as Nagas, snakes. Ila gave birth to trees, creepers, shrubs and bushes. Kadru's sons were also known as Nagas or snakes. Among the more important of Kadru's sons were Ananta, Vasuki, Takshaka and Nahusha. Muni gave birth to the Apsaras, dancers of heaven. Diti's children, Daityas, and Aditi's children, Adityas, continually fought amongst themselves. On one particular occasion, the gods succeed in killing many of the demons. Thirsting for revenge, Diti began to pray to her husband, Kashyapa, that she might give birth to a son who would kill Indra, the king of the gods. Kashyapa found it difficult to refuse his wife outright. "All right," he said. "You have to bear the son in your womb for 100 years. And throughout this period, you will have indeed killed Indira. But if you do not observe these instructions to the letter, your desire will not be satisfied." Diti resolved to do as her husband had bidden her. But Indra had got to know about Diti's resolve and was waiting for an opportunity to save himself. There was an occasion when, tired after her prayers, Diti went to sleep without first washing her feet. This was an unclean act and it gave Indra the required opportunity. He adopted a minuscule form and entered Diti's womb. With his weapon Vajra, he sliced up the baby inside the womb into 7 parts. The baby naturally began to cry at the pain. Indra kept on saying, "Maruda, that is, don't cry." But the baby, or rather its 7 parts, would not listen. Indra thereupon sliced up each of the 7 parts into 7 more sections, so that there were 49 sections in all. When these 49 sections were born, they came to known as the Maruts, from the words that Indra had addressed them. Since Diti had not been able to adhere to the conditions her husband had set, the Maruts did not kill Indra. They instead became Indra's followers or companions, and were treated as gods. Prithu in Dhruva's line there was a king named Anga. Anga was religious and followed the righteous path. But unfortunately, Anga's son Vena inherited none of the good qualities of his father. Vena's mother was Sunita and she happened to be the daughter of Mrityu. Mrityu was notorious for his evil ways and deeds. Vena spent a lot of time with his maternal grandfather and picked up these evil characteristics. Vena gave up the religion that was laid down in the Vedas and stopped all yajnas. He instructed his subjects that he alone was to be worshipped. The sages led by Marichi came to Vena to try and persuade him to mend his ways. But Vena was in no mood to listen. He insisted that there was no one equal to him in the whole universe. The sages realized that Vena was a lost cause. They physically caught hold of Vena and began to knead his right thigh. From this kneading emerged a horrible-looking creature. It was a dwarf and its complexion was extremely dark. The sage Atri was so aghast at the dwarf's appearance that he blurted out, Nishida, which means, sit. From this, the dwarf came to be known as Nishda. The race of Nishdas became hunters and fishermen, and lived in the Vindhya mountains. From them were also descended uncivilized races like Tusharas and Tunduras. The evil that was in Vena's body and mind came out with the emergence of the Nishda. When the sages began to knead Vena's right arm, Prithu emerged. He shone like a flaming fire and his energy lit up the four directions. He held a bow in his hand and he was clad in beautiful armor. As soon as Prithu was born, Vena died. All the rivers and the oceans arrived with their waters and their jewels to anoint Prithu as the king. The gods and the sages also came for the coronation. Brahma himself crowned Prithu the king of the earth. He also took the opportunity to apportion out the lordships of other parts of the universe. Soma was appointed lord over creepers, herbs, stars, nakshatras, planets, grahas, sacrifices, meditation, tapasya, and over the first of the four classes, Brahmanas. Varuna became lord of the oceans, Kuber of all the kings, Vishnu of the Adityas, Agni of Vasas, Daksha of all Prahlad of Daityas and Danvas, Yam of the Pritris, ancestors, Shiva of Yakshas, Rakshasas and Pishachas, ghosts, and Himalaya of the mountains. The ocean, Samudra, was made the lord of all rivers. Chitraratha of Gandharvas, Vasuki of Nagas, Takshaka of Serpas, Garuda of birds, the tiger of deer, Airavata of elephants, Uchchashrava of horses, the bull of cows and the Ashwatthaka tree, a banyan, of all trees. Brahma also appointed four overlords, the Kapalas, for the four directions. To the east there was Sudhamvan, to the south Shankapala, to the west Ketumana and to the north Hiranyaroma. Prithu was a king who ruled the earth well. During his reign, the earth was laden with food grains. The cows were full of milk and the subjects were happy. To glorify King Prithu, the sages performed a sacrifice and from this sacrifice there emerged two races known as the Sutas and the Magads should sing praises in honor of Prithu. But what praise will we sing? Asked the Sutas and the Magads. Prithu is still young. He has not done much that can be praised. That may be true, replied the sages. But he will do wondrous deeds in the future. Sing praises of those wonderful deeds. We will tell you about them. Having learned of these future deeds from the sages, the Sutas and the Magads began to compose songs and chant praises in honor of Prithu. These stories were related throughout the earth. Some of Prithu's subjects heard these stories and came to see Prithu. King, they said, we have heard of your great deeds. But we find it difficult to make a living. Please indicate to us our habitations on earth. And tell us where we may be able to get the food we need for subsistence. King Prithu picked up his bow and arrow. He decided to kill the earth, since the earth was not yielding food grains to his subjects. The earth adopted the form of a cow and began to flee. But wherever the earth went, Prithu followed with his bow and arrow. He followed the earth to the heaven and to the underworld. Finally, in desperation, the earth started to pray to Prithu. King, she said, please control your anger. I am a woman. Killing me will only mean a sin for you. Besides, what purpose will killing me serve? Your subjects will then be without a place to live in. There must be some other way of ensuring that your subjects can make a living. The earth then herself offered a solution and King Prithu did her bidding. With his bow, he leveled out the earth. The plains could now be used for villages and cities and for agriculture and animal husbandry. The plains could now be used for villages and cities and for agriculture and animal husbandry. The mountains were gathered together in select places, instead of being littered over whole earth. Earlier, Prithu's subjects had lived off fruits and roots. Now Prithu milked the earth, in her form of a cow, and obtained the seeds of food grains on which people could live. Because of Prithu's deeds, the earth came to be known as Prithivi. Manvantaras. A Manvantara is an era. There are 4 smaller eras, yugas, and their names are Satya or Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. Each cycle of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga is called a Mahayuga. A Mahayuga comprises of 12,000 years of the gods, or equivalently, 4320000 years for human. 71 Mahayugas constitute a Manvantara and 14 Manvantaras constitute a cycle, Kalpa. One Kalpa is one of Brahma's days and the universe is destroyed at the end of a Kalpa. Each Manvantara is ruled over by a Manu. In the present Kalpa, 6 Manvantaras have already passed and the names of the 6 Manus who ruled were Swayambhuva, Swarokesha, Uttama, Thamasa, Ravta and Chakshusha. The name of the 7th Manu, who rules over the 7th Manvantara of the present Kalpa, is Vavaswata. The titles of the 7 great sages, Saptarshi, as well as the title of Indra change from Manvantara to Manvantara. The gods also change. In the present Vavaswata Manvantara, the 7 great sages are Atri, Vashishta, Kashyapa, Gautama, Bharadvaja, Vishwamitra and Jamdagni. The gods now are the Sadhyas, the Rudras, the Vishwadevas, the Vasis, the Maruts, the Adityas and the 2 Ashwinis. There will be 7 Manus in the future before the universe is destroyed. 5 of these Manus will be known as Savarni Manus. The remaining 2 will be called Bhautya and Rauchya. The Sun and the Solar Dynasty. You have probably forgotten by now that Kashyapa and Aditya had a son named Vivaswan. This was the sun god, also known as Surya or Marthanda. Surya was married to Samjana, Vishwakarma's daughter. They had 2 sons. The first son was Vavaswata Manu and the second son was Yam or Shradadeva, the god of death. Yam had a twin sister named Yamuna. The sun's energy was so strong that Samjana could not bear to look at her husband. Through her powers, she created an image from her own body that looked exactly like her. This image was called Chaya, shadow. Samjana told Chaya, "I cannot bear the energy of my husband, I am going off to my father's house. Stay here, pretend to be Samjana and look after my children. Under no circumstances tell anyone, certainly not my husband, that you are not Samjana." "I will do as you have asked me to," replied Chaya. "But the moment someone curses me or pulls me by the hair, I shall be forced to reveal the truth." Samjana went to her father Vishwakarma, kept asking her to return to her husband. But this Samjana refused to do. Instead, she went to the land known as Uttarakuru and started to live there as a mare. Meanwhile, Surya, who had not realized that Samjana had been replaced by Chaya, had 2 sons through Chaya. They were named Savarni Manu and Shani, Saturn. As soon as her own children were born, Chaya no longer displayed as much of love for Samjana's children as she used to do. Vavaswata Manu was a quiet sort of person and he ignored the implied neglect. But Yam was not the tolerant. Besides, he was also younger. He raised his leg to kick Chaya. At this, Chaya cursed Yam that his legs would fall off. Yam went and complained to Surya. I have not really kicked her, he said. I only threatened to. And does a mother ever curse her children? I can't undo the curse, replied Surya. At best, I can reduce its severity. Your legs will not actually fall off. Some of the flesh from your legs will fall off onto the earth and create worms. Thereby, you will be freed of your curse. But nevertheless, Surya felt that there was some truth in Yam's asking whether a mother would ever curse her children. He taxed Chaya with the truth, but Chaya would not reveal anything. Surya then grasped her by the hair and threatened to curse her. Since her conditions were now violated, Chaya blurted out the truth. In an extremely angry mood, Surya dashed off to Vishwakarma's house. Vishwakarma tried to cool him down. It is all because of your exercises energy that this has happened, exclaimed Vishwakarma. If you permit, I will shave off some of the extra energy. Then Samjana will be able to look at you. Surya agreed to this proposition. With the shaved off energy, Vishwakarma manufactured Vishnu's chakra, a weapon like a bladed discus. Surya found out that Samjana was in Uttarakuru in the form of a mare. He joined her there in the form of a horse. As horse, they had two sons named Nastya and Dasra. Since Ashv means horse, the sons were also known as the two Ashwinish and became the physicians of the gods. Surya and Samjana then gave up their equine forms and lived happily ever after. Vavaswata Manu's children. Vavaswata Manu has no children and he arranged for a sacrifice so that he might have a son. 9 sons were born as a result of this sacrifice. Their names were Ikshvaku, Nabhaga, Drishta, Sharyati, Narishanta, Pramashu, Rishta, Karusha and Parishadra. Manu also made an offering to the two gods Mitra and Varuna. As a result of this offering, a daughter named Ila was born. Buddha was the son of Chandra, and Buddha and Ila had a son named Purava. Subsequently, thanks to a boon conferred on her by Mitra and Varuna, Ila became a man named Sudyumna. Sudyumna's sons were Utkala, Gaya and Vintashva. Utkala ruled in Orissa, Gaya in the region that is also called Gaya, and Vintashva in the west. Sudyumna was not entitled to rule since he had earlier been a woman. He lived in the city known as Pratisthana. Pururava inherited this later on. When Vavaswata Manu died, his 10 sons divided up the earth amongst themselves. Ikshvaku ruled in the central regions. He had 100 sons, the eldest of whom was named Vikukshi. Vikukshi came to be known as Shashta. Thereby hangs a tale. Ikshvaku wanted to organize a sacrifice and he sent his son Vikukshi to the forest to fetch some meat for the sacrifice. While hunting for game, Vikukshi felt very hungry and ate up some of the meat. This was a sacrilege and the sage Vasishtha advised Ikshvaku to banish Vikukshi from his kingdom. Because the meat that he had eaten had been the meat of a rabbit, Shashka, Vikukshi came to be known as Shashta. But after Ikshvaku died, Vikukshi returned to his father's kingdom and began to rule there. This was the kingdom of Ayodhya. One of Vikukshi's sons was Kakuchta, and Rama of Ramayana fame was born in this line. Kubalashva was one of the kings descended from Kakutstha. Kubalashva's father was named Vrihadashva. After Vrihadashva had ruled for many years, he desired to retire to the forest. He therefore prepared to hand over the kingdom to his son Kubalashva. But learning of King Vrihadashva's resolve, a sage named Utanka came to meet the king. "Don't go to the forest right now," Utanka told the king. "My hermitage, ashrama, is on the shores of the ocean and is surrounded by sand in all directions. A strong Rakshasa named Dhandu lives under the sand. He is so strong that even the gods have been unable to kill him. Once every year, Dhandu exhales his breath and this raises a tremendous cloud of sand and dust. For an entire week the sun remains shrouded in dust, and for the whole week, there are earthquakes as a result of Dhandu's exhalation. This is disturbing my meditation, tapasya, and you can't very well go away to the forest without first doing something about Dhandu. Only you are capable of killing him. I have accumulated a lot of power as a result of my tapasya, and I will give this to you if you kill Dhandu. Vrihadashva told Uttanka that there was no need for Vrihadashva himself to kill Dhandu. He would go to the forest as he had decided. His son Kubalashva was perfectly capable of killing Dhandu and would accompany Uttanka. Kubalashva and his 100 sons went to the shores of the ocean where all the sand was. Kubalashva asked his sons to start digging so that they might find Dhandu. Dhandu attacked Kubalashva's sons and killed all of them but 3. The 3 who escaped were named Drideshwa, Chandrashva and Kapilashva. But Dhandu himself was killed by Kubalashva. As a result of this great feat, Kubalashva came to be known as Dhandumara. The sage Uttanka blessed Kubalashva, and by the sage's blessings, Kubalashva's dead sons went straight to heaven. Trishanku from Drideshwa was descended a king named Triruni. Triruni was a righteous king and followed all the religious dictates. But Trirun's son Satyavrat was quite the opposite and refused to follow the righteous path. King Triruni's chief priest was the great sage Vasishtha. Vasishtha advised the king that his evil son should be banished from the kingdom. Triruni accepted the sage's advice. Consequently, Satyavrat started to live with outcasts, Chandalas, outside the kingdom. After some time, Triruni relinquished his kingship and went away to the forest. The kingdom had no king and degenerated into anarchy. The absence of a king is also frowned upon by the gods, and for 12 years there was a terrible drought. Vishwamitra was another great sage. While all this was going on, Vishwamitra was not present in the kingdom. He had gone away to perform tapasya on the shores of the ocean, having left his wife and children in a hermitage, ashrama, that was in the kingdom. But because there was such a long spell of drought, there was also famine in the kingdom. People started to starve. Vishwamitra's wife decided to sell her son so that she might have some food to eat. She tied a rope round the son's neck and took him to the marketplace. There, she sold him in exchange for 1,000 cows. Since a rope had been tied around the son's neck, Gala, he came to be known as Galava. But Satyavrat discovered what terrible straits Vishwamitra's family was in. He freed Galava and started to take care of Vishwamitra's wife and children. Satyavrat had not been terribly fond of Vasishtha. He blamed the sage for his banishment. When there was famine everywhere, Satyavrat stole Vasishtha's cow. He killed the cow and served the meat to Vishwamitra's sons, apart from eating it himself. Vasishtha was in a terrible rage when he got to know about this incident. He cursed Satyavrat. "You have committed 3 sins, Shanku, Vasishtha told Satyavrat. Firstly, you have angered your father Triruni. Secondly, you have stolen and killed a cow. Thirdly, you have eaten beef, a forbidden meat. Because of these 3 sins, you will henceforth be known as Trishanku and be eternally cursed." The word tree means 3. Satyavrat had however taken care of Vishwamitra's family when the sage was away on his meditation. After Vishwamitra returned, He was very happy to learn about what Trishanku had done and offered to grant him a boon. Trishanku desired the boon that he might be allowed to go to heaven in his own physical body. Thanks to Vishwamitra's immense powers, even this virtually impossible task was accomplished. Trishanku became king in Triruni's kingdom and Vishwamitra acted as his chief priest. Sagra, Trishanku's son, was Harishchandra, and from Harishchandra was descended a king named Bahu. Bahu devoted too much time to pleasurable pursuits. The upshot of this was that the defense of the kingdom was not properly taken care of. Enemy kings seized this opportunity to attack Bahu's kingdom. They drove Bahu out and Bahu went off to the forest with his wife Yadavi. The enemy kings who dislodged Bahu were led by the Haihaya and Taljanga kings. They were aided by the Shakas, Yavnas, Paradas, Cambojas and Pahlavas. King Bahu died in the forest. His wife Yadavi desired to die on her husband's funeral pyre. But since Yadavi was pregnant at the time, the sage Aurva persuaded her that such an act would be a sin. He brought Yadavi to his own hermitage and began to take care of her. Bahu had also a second wife and she had once tried to poison Yadavi. The poison, Gara, had however done Yadavi no harm and emerged when the baby was born. Since the baby was born together with poison, he came to known as Sagra. The sage Aurva took care of Sagra's education. He imparted to Sagra the knowledge of all the Shastras and also the usage of weapons. Amongst other things, Sagra acquired the skill of using a divine weapon known as Agnayastra. When he grew up, Sagra attacked the Haihaya kings and defeated them through the use of Agnayastra. He then defeated the Shakas, Yavnas, Paradas, Cambojas and Pahlavas and was about to kill them all. But these enemy kings fled to the sage Vasishtha for refuge and Vasishtha persuaded Sagra not to kill his enemies. Instead, the heads of the Shakas were half shaven off. The Yavnas and Cambojas had their heads completely shaven. The Pahlavas were instructed that they would have to keep beards. These enemy kings also lost all right to follow the religion laid down in the Vedas. Amongst the other kings who Sagra defeated were the Konezapas, the Mahishakas, the Devas, the Cholas and the Kelas. King Sagra had two wives. The first was named Keshini and she was the daughter of the king of Vidarbha. The Brahma Purana does not tell us the name of the second wife, but from the Mahabharata we know that it was Sumti. Keshini and Sumti had no sons. They therefore began to pray to Aurva so that they might have sons. Aurva was pleased at these prayers and said, "Both of you will have sons. But one of you will have a single son and the other will have 60,000 sons. Tell me, who wants what?" Keshini asked for a single son and Sumti asked for 60,000 sons. In due course, Keshini gave birth to a son named Panchajna. Sumti gave birth to a god. Inside the god there was a lump of meat. The god was placed inside a pot full of clarified butter, ghrita. And from the lump of meat were born 60,000 sons. King Sagra proceeded to conquer the entire earth. As a recognition of this conquest, he initiated an Ashwamedha Yajna, horse sacrifice. In this ceremony, the sacrificial horse is left free to wander all over the earth. The 60,000 sons accompanied the horse as its guards. The horse eventually reached the shores of the ocean that lies towards the southeast. While Sagra's sons were resting, the horse was stolen. The sons started to look for the horse and began to dig up the sands in their search. In this process, they came upon the sage Kapila. Kapila had been meditating and his meditation was disturbed by the terrible din that Sagra's sons made. He gazed at them in fury and all but 4 of the sons were burned to ashes. The 4 sons who were saved were named Variketu, Suketu, Dharmaketu and Panchajna. The Brahma Purana is slightly confused here. Was Panchajna Keshini's son or Sumti's son? There is some inconsistency with the account given in the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, it is Keshini who gave birth to 60,000 sons and it is Sumti who had a single son named Asmaja. Also in the Mahabharata, all 60,000 sons were burned to ashes. The Brahma Purana also tells us that the sacrificial horse was obtained by Sagra from the ocean. This is the reason why the ocean is referred to as Sagra. To come back to the account given in the Brahma Purana, Panchajna's son was Anshumana and Anshumana's son was Dilipa. Dilipa had a son named Bhagiratha. Bhagiratha brought down the river Ganga from heaven to earth and thus redeemed his ancestors who had been burned to ashes by Kapila. It was because of this that the river Ganga came to be known as Bhagirathi. From Bhagiratha was descended Raghu. Raghu's son was Aja, Aja's son Dashratha and Dashratha's son Rama. The moon and the lunar dynasty. There was a sage named Atri. Atri performed very difficult tapasya. So difficult was the tapasya that Atri's energy was thrown up into the sky. The sky could not bear this energy and hurled it down onto the earth. This energy then gave birth to Soma or Chandra, the moon god. Brahma took Chandra up into his chariot and drove the chariot around the earth 21 times. From whatever energy was left after Chandra has been created, the herbs were born. Chandra also performed very difficult tapasya. 1 Padma year consists of 10,000,000,000,000,000,000 normal years. For 100 such Padma years, Chandra mediated. After the meditation was over, Brahma appointed Chandra lord over seeds, herbs, Brahmanas and the oceans. Chandra also performed a Rajasuya Yajna, royal sacrifice, as a celebration of his lordship. This gave him a lot pomp, glory, wealth and respect. But all this merely served to turn Chandra's head. The guru, teacher, of the gods was the sage Brihaspati. Brihaspati had a wife named Tara and Chandra abducted Tara. Despite the gods and the sages asking Chandra to return Tara, the moon god would not listen. A terrible war then raged over Tara, the gods fighting for Chandra. Shukracharya, the guru of the demons, fought on Chandra's side and Shiva fought on Brihaspati's side. This war, Sangram, came to be known as Thakamaya Sangram, since it was fought over Tara. Finally Brahma intervened and a truce was called. But Chandra and Tara had by then had a son, and Brihaspati refused to accept this son as his own. This son was Buddha. As you already know, Buddha married Ila and they had a son named Pururava. The Brahma Purana now describes several kings belonging to the Lunar dynasty. Yayati. In the Lunar dynasty, there was born a powerful king named Nahusha. He married Viraja and they had 6 sons named Yati, Yajati, Samyati, Ayati, Yati, and Suti. Yati became a hermit. So although Yayati was not the eldest, he was crowned king after Nahusha. Yayati had 2 wives. The first was Devyani, daughter of Shukracharya, and the second was Sharmishta, daughter of Vrishpava, the king of the Danvas. Devyani had 2 sons named Yadu and Turvasu and Sharmishta had 3 sons named Druhaye, Anu and Puru. Yayati conquered the whole earth and ruled over it. When he became old, he divided the earth amongst his 5 sons. Yadu was given the lands to the east, Puru the lands in the center, Turvasu the lands to the south and southeast, Druhaye those to the north and Anu those to the west. Yayati gave up his weapons and decided to travel throughout the world. He called Yadu to him and said, I wish to explore the world and my old age is a hindrance. Please accept my old age and give me your youth in return. Yadu refused. I will not, he said. One cannot eat well when one is old, nor can one pleasure the comforts of the world. Old age is not pleasant. Ask one of my brothers instead. Yadu's refusal angered Yayati. He cursed Yadu that he or his descendants would never be kings. Yayati next requested Druhaye, Turvasu and Anu, but they too refused and were similarly cursed by their father. But Puru agreed to his father's request and gladly accepted the old age. He was blessed by his father. After many years had passed, Yayati got tired of the world and returned Puru's youth to him. He accepted back his old age and retired to the forest to meditate. From Puru was descended King Bharata, after whom the land came to be known as Bharatavarsha. Also in this line was King Kuru, after whom all the descendants came to be known as Kauravas. The sacred place named Kurukshetra owes its name to King Kuru. From Turvasu were descended the kings of Pandya, Kerala, Kola and Chola. From Druhaya were descended the kings of Gandhara. The horses of the Gandhara kingdom are famous. Yadu had 5 sons, Sehesrada, Payoda, Kroshtu, Nila and Anjika. Sehesrada's descendants were the Haihyas, amongst whom the most famous was Kartavirya Arjuna. Arjuna pleased the sage Dattatreya and became invincible. He also had 1,000 arms. Arjuna's greatest deeds were his defeat and imprisonment of Ravana, king of Lanks. Kroshtu's descendants were Vrishni and Andhaka, and in the Vrishni line was born Krishna. Geography. Having heard accounts of the Solar and Lunar dynasties, the sages requested Romaharshana. Tell us a little about the geography of the world. What does the earth look like? What are its limits? Romaharshana obliged and said the earth is divided into 7 regions, Dvipas. Their names are Jambadvipa, Plakshadvipa, Shalmaladvipa, Kushadvipa, Kraunchadvipa, Shakadvipa and Pushkardvipa. These regions are surrounded by 7 oceans and their names are Lavana, Ikshu, Sura, Serpi, Dai, Dugdha and Jala. Jambadvipa is in the center and right in the middle of Jambadvipa is Mount Sumeru. To the south of Sumeru are the mountains Himavana, Hemkutha and Nishadha, and to the north of Sumeru are the mountains Nila, Shweta and Shringi. Jambadvipa itself is divided into several regions, Varshas. For example, Sumeru is in the middle of Ilavrita Varsha. Bratavarsha is to the south of Sumeru. To the east of Sumeru is Bhadrashvarsha and to the west is Ketumela Varsha. Harivarsha lies to the south and Ramyaka Varsha to the north. Still further north is Hiranmaya Varsha and beyond that, Uttara Kuruvarsha. Brahma's city is on the peak of Sumeru. It is there that the river Ganga descends from heaven and gets divided into 4 tributaries. Sita flows eastwards, Chakshu westwards, Bhadra northwards and Alkananda southwards into Bharatavarsha. There are 7 major mountain ranges in Bharatavarsha and their names are Mahendra, Malya, Sahya, Shuktimana, Raiksha, Vindhya and Paryatra. Bharatavarsha itself is divided into 9 regions, Dvipas. The names of 8 of these regions are Indradvipa, Soumya, Gandharv and Varuna. The 9th region is completely surrounded by the ocean in all directions. To the east of Bharatavarsha live the Kiratas and to the west the Yavanas. Below the earth lie the 7 regions of the underworld, Patala. Their names are Atala, Vitla, Nitla, Sutala, Taltala, Rasatla and Patala. The Daityas, Danvas and the snakes, Serpa, live there. The underworld is a wonderful place, more beautiful than heaven itself. The sage Narada once went on a trip to the underworld and was bowled over by its beauty. It is full of palaces and jewels. The sun rises there, but does not radiate too much of heat. The moon also rises, but its beams are not at all chilly. The forests are populated by beautiful trees and the ponds are thick with lotus flowers. The songs of cuckoo birds are heard everywhere. Below the underworld sleeps a great snake, known as Shesha or Ananta. It has 1,000 hoods, all covered with jewels. In fact, this snake is really Vishnu in one of these various forms. Also part of the world are hells, Nraka, presided over by Yam, the god of death. Those are full of weapons, fire and poisons, and sinners are sent there to be punished. Sins that are punished by dispatch to one of the several hells are lying, murder, killing cows, destroying cities, drinking, killing Brahmanas, theft, selling wines or hair, criticizing the Vedas, insulting elders, making weapons, selling salt, destroying forests needlessly, killing sheep or deer, cheating and studying under one's own sun. Each sinner receives a punishment that is in proportion to the severity of his sin. Of course, if one performs penance, prayashchitta, for one's sins, one need not go to Nraka. The best form of penance is praying to Krishna. The earth, Prithivi or Goloka, extends up to those arts of the sky that can be lit up by the rays of the sun and the moon. The expanse from there to the solar circle is known as Bhuvaloka and holy sages live there. Above the solar circle is the lunar circle and beyond it, in succession, come the regions of Mercury, Buddha, Venus, Shukra, Mars, Mandla, Jupiter, Brihaspati, Saturn, Shani, the Great Bear constellation, Saptarshi, and the pole star, Dhruva. The region from the solar circle to Dhruvaloka is known as heaven, Swaloka or Swarga. Beyond Dhruvaloka is Mahaloka and further away, Janaloka, Tapaloka and Satyalok. At the end of a kalpa, all the 3 lokas, regions, of Goloka, Bhuvaloka and Swaloka are destroyed. But the 4 lokas of Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka and Satyalok are not destroyed. Konarka, there is an ocean to the south of Bharatavarsha. On the shores of this great ocean there is a land named Andhra or Utkala, present Orissa. Utkala is populated by religious people and the Brahmanas who live there are learned in the Vedas. They are very good priests, learned in the Puranas and the Shastras and skilled in the art of sacrifices. In the land of Utkala, there is an image of the sun, Surya, known as Konaditya. The word Aditya also means the sun, as does the word Aka. Thus, Konaditya is the same as Konarka, a corruption of the latter word being Konarka. The image of Konaditis is so wonderful that even if one gazes at the image, all one's sins are forgiven. All around the temple there is sand. But nevertheless, many trees grow around the temple. The best time to worship the sun there is at the time of sunrise. One has to face the east and draw a lotus flower on the ground with red sandalwood. The lotus flower must have exactly 8 petals. A copper vessel has to be placed at the center of the flower and filled with paddy, sesamum water, red sandalwood, red flowers and sacred grass. One prays to Surya to descend on the lotus flower that has thus been drawn. If one worships Konaditya according to these prescribed rites, the sins of 7 preceding generations are forgiven. The 12 Adityas are nothing but different forms of Surya. Their names are Indra, Gata, Pajanya, Twashta, Pusha Ayama, Bhaga Vivaswan, Vishnu, Anshumana, Varuna, and Mitra. As Indra, Surya destroys the enemies of the gods. As Gata, he creates living beings. As Pajanya, he showers down rain. As Twashta, he lives in the trees and herbs. As Pusha, he makes food grains grow. As Ayama, he is in the wind. As Bhaga, he is in the body of all living beings. As Vivaswan, he is in fire and helps to cook food. As Vishnu, he destroys the enemies of the gods. As Anshumana, he is again in the wind. As Varuna, Surya is in the waters, and as Mitra, he is in the moon and in the oceans. In each month of the year, it is a different Aditya who shines. Indra shines in the month of Ashwina, Gata in Kartika, Pajanya in Shravana, Twashta in Falguna, Pusha in Posha, Ayama in Vashaka, Bhaga in Maga, Vivaswan in Jyashta, Vishnu in Chakra, Anshumana in Ashta, Varuna in Bhadra, and Mitra in Agrahayana. Vishnu has 1200 rays, Ayama 1300. Vivaswan 72, Anshumana 15, Pajanya 72, Varuna 1300, Twashta 1100, Indra 2200, Gata 1100, Mitra 1000, and Pusha 900. Apart from the names of the 12 Adityas, Surya has 12 other names as well. These are Aditya, Savita, Surya, Mihira, Aka, Prabhakra, Martanda, Bhaskar, Bhanu, Chitrabhanu, Divakar, and Ravi. Brahma once recounted to the sages the 108 sacred names of Surya. The Brahma Purana lists these names, and we reproduce them in 9 groups of 12 names each. 1. Surya, Archana, Bhagwana, Twashta, Pusha, Aka, Savita, Ravi, Gabastimana, Aja, Kala, Mrityu. 2. Data, Prabhakra, Prithivi, Jala, Teja, Akasha, Vayu, Payana, Soma, Brihaspati, Shukra, Buddha. 3. Angaka, Indra, Vivaswan, Diptanshu, Shuchi, Shounri, Chandaishvara, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Skanda, Vashravna. 4. Yam, Vaidyutam, Jatara, Agni, Aindana, Tejapati, Dharmadhvaja, Vedakata, Vedanga, Vedavhana, Krita, Tretha. 5. Dwapra, Kali, Sarvasurashraya, Kala, Kashta, Muhurta, Kshapa, Yam, Kshana, Samvatsara, Ashwatartha, Kalachakra. 6. Vibhavasu, Shashvat, Purusha, Yogi, Vyakta, Sanatna, Kaladhyaksha, Prajadhyaksha, Vishwakrama, Tamonyuda, Varuna, Sagra. 7. Amsha, Jimuta, Jivna, Ariha, Bhutashraya, Bhutapti, Savalokan Maskrita, Shrashta, Samvartaka, Vakni, Savadi, Alolupa. 8. Ananta, Kapila, Bhanu, Kamada, Savurtemukha, Jaya, Vishala, Varada, Sarvabhutesvita, Mana, Suparna, Bhutari. 9. Shigraga, Prandana, Dhanvantari, Dhumeketi, Adideva, Aditinandana, Dwadashatma, Ravi, Daksha, Pita, Mata, Pitamaha. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.